Hello, I'm Kristen Shane. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this demo. You're about to hear a montage of some of my best radio work so far. I produce these pieces for Midweek. Midweek's a current affairs show that airs live every week on CKCU-FM in Ottawa. For a semester in my 4th year at the Carleton University School of Journalism, I worked with a team of other students on all aspects of the show, from live hosting to picking the perfect music, editing copy, and chasing breaking stories in the morning before our noon show. I also learned how to produce my own items using multi-track editing software. These are skills I can demonstrate when working for you. I'm a radio fanatic because I love the way a good story, told in a compelling way, paints a picture in my mind. I know these next pieces will do this for you, so take a listen.
The Kelly McGuinness Library may not be one you recognize, but it's got national importance. Kristen Shane took a look at its books on Saturday, and she's here to tell us why this library is so special.
That's right, Pavan. The Kelly McGuinness Library is on the 3rd floor of a plain grey building on Bank Street. And when I walked in, I thought it looked, well, like a library. There were shelves of books stacked to the ceiling in 2 small rooms. But when I took a closer look, I saw titles like Rainbow Boys and Coming Out. The library is filled with books written by or about gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, two-spirited and queer people, the GLBTQ community. And not only that, it's the largest of its kind in Canada with about 7,000 books. It's run by Pink Triangle Services, which is a non-profit group supporting Ottawa's queer community.
So how did it get to be so full of books?
Well, it wasn't always this way. I spoke to Tom Barnes, and he volunteers as the library's coordinator. He remembers what it was like when he started at Pink Triangle Services in 1986.
You had one little tiny shelf of books back then, just above the secretary's desk. That's all it was. A couple of people got together, one who was working at a government library.
In the last 3 years, hundreds of boxes have sprung up along downtown Ottawa streets, without the city's permission. The box's creator is starting to gain worldwide attention for his renegade public art, and an Ottawa filmmaker is even documenting the project. Midweek's Kristen Shane tells us more.
A man rips a handsaw through a piece of plywood in his basement workshop. His street artist name is L. Max. In a couple of hours, a power drill, a splash of red and white paint, and black permanent marker turn this chunk of wood into a swap box. L. Max drills it onto the side of a wooden utility pole on the corner of Elgin and McLaren Streets. Jedis Tree Spirit captured this sequence for a short film she's making about L. Max and his swap box project.
I'm always really excited by the ideas of having these interactive street pieces, so the fact that this friend of mine came up with this idea was just a really great concept for me to feed off of, I guess, and just get to explore in depth.
Her film won't be the Swapbox project's first brush with fame. Swapbox replicas have sprung up all over the world, and L. Max has inspired an army of local copycats and internet fans. He chats about his art as he checks up on one of his boxes on Bank Street in the Glebe. As Saturday shoppers brush by his tall frame, L. Max's stubbly face leans in to inspect the box. He realizes someone has ripped the lid off of its hinges.
The inside of the lid of the box had some pretty neat artwork. I had
Blind and visually impaired curlers are competing for the national championship. Kristen Shane took a slide on the ice to see how these curlers play.
Barb Hampson-Comba taps a curling broom on the ice in front of her husband Bob. He needs it to know where to throw the curling rock he grips in his right hand. Bob has very little vision, but Barb is sighted. She acts as a guide for Team BC. The team has won the national championships every year since the tournament began 4 years ago. Dean Martell is the team skip.
There's different sight levels for different people. On our team, we're required to have what they call a B1, which is a total blind person. A B2 has probably less than 10 to 15% vision. And then me and my second are both B3s, so we have limited vision, but we can still see enough to get around.
While the BC team members are veterans of this competition, the ones from Newfoundland are new.
Newfoundland team is not here to win because we have just actually started this past fall, and we don't have the 20 and 30 years experience that some of the other teams have. It's a real learning experience for us, and we're having a lot of fun.
Visually impaired curlers use binoculars and brooms equipped with LED lights to aim their rocks correctly. But other than these few changes, this doesn't look much different from a typical game. Bill Marmon Watson is a volunteer today, but he has played in the last 3 years' tournaments. He only has peripheral vision.
This is a fantastic sport for people that can't participate in other sports. Like, I'll never be a tennis player. I'll never be able to play baseball. I can't see the frickin' ball. But there's not much restricting me from being a good curler.
The final play will take place on Friday. In Ottawa, I'm Kristen Shane.
A new generation is taking up the needles where Grandma left off. And these 20 and 30-year-olds are not afraid to show their crafty side in public. Midweek's Kristen Shane caught up with some of these knitters at an unlikely hangout last weekend.
18 women are gathered round small tables at the Carlton Tavern in Ottawa's Hintonburg neighborhood. They sip beer and occasionally reach a hand to graze on greasy appetizers. But for the most part, their fingers are busy fiddling with the yarn in their laps. This isn't your grandma's knitting party. That's because knitting isn't just a hobby for grandmas anymore. Most of these women are in their 20s and 30s. Kate Dugas is 32.
Well, my Nana taught me how to knit probably when I was a little girl, like maybe 10. I still remember she bought me this green canvas bag, and it had this white silk screen of like a knitting needles and the yarn on the front and all of the old school gray knitting needles, the long pointy ones. And I knit a few things when I was little. And then I think it took probably until I was in my late 20s before I went back to it and thought, oh, this is something I want to do. And so I had to relearn everything that my Nana had taught me.
Like Dugas, many knitters here learn from their mothers or grandmothers as kids and return to knitting as adults. Without Grandma by their side, they're turning to the internet for help. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to my radio collage. Please note the complete items are available in subsequent files. I hope you enjoyed hearing these stories as much as I enjoyed producing them. I'd love to do more of the same for you. Thanks for your consideration. I'm Kristen Shane.